I am going to do this before I lose my nerve. Um, a question I get sometimes is, why don't you have kids? You know, and I think some of the belief is, a child would be a comfort to you. A child could help, adult child could, help kind of keep an eye out on you as you age, things like that. There are a couple of reasons. I will discuss it in the video. I will not discuss this in person with anybody, ever. So, just for the record. So, growing up, it was apparent I had differences. I didn't get an actual label until I was 17. At least to my knowledge, there was a lot that was kept from me as I was growing up. Which I think God used for good. If somebody puts a label on you and puts you in a box, which, you've heard that from me before, it's very limiting, and you don't, I wouldn't have been able to, I don't think I'd be where I am now. So I think in that regard, I was done a favor. But I remember many, many lectures growing up where I was told that I would be a terrible mother. I was going to end up like my birth mother. She was a bipolar alcoholic. She was married 7 times. She had many, many boyfriends after her last husband died, but she was getting a pension and medical coverage, very good medical care, because he was in the military. So she never remarried because she wanted to keep those benefits. But there, she, had very unstable, basically. She had children. They were all raised by other people. My brother said once that she just dropped him off with friends now and then she wouldn't come back for a year or two. So, that's just who she was. She just basically walked out of my life when I was about 3, and I saw her a few times after that, but she always made it about her and how much she missed me. But, she had visitation. She just never used it. She never wanted to use it. And I think my dad's only rule was she had to be sober, but, And I was told later that there were a lot of times she said she was coming over and she didn't. So they would just say, oh, well, Heather, why don't we just stay home today and, on the weekend, and we'll just, do some craft stuff in the kitchen or whatever. And then, either she would show up or she wouldn't. And she very seldom showed up. But I wasn't told this until later. So anyways, I was told I was going to end up like her, that I would be a terrible mother. I would neglect my children. They would get taken from me. I was, basically too defective to be a good mother. So I got that for 18 years. I met Ron. He was already sterilized. And he paid out of pocket because at the time, in the early 80s, whatever his welfare insurance, Medicaid, I think it was, they would not pay for sterilization, which is really, really stupid. If somebody on Medicaid wants to get sterilized, let's make that happen. So, I think he said he had to pay $400 out of pocket for, day surgery for the vasectomy. And as far as I know, I never got pregnant. So, 29 years, so, obviously it worked. But he had that done like almost 10 years before he met me. So I knew going into it that, and we talked about it, and, maybe he could reverse it later on, so, it was a possibility. But he said the main reason he wanted to do two things. There was a pregnancy scare with a girlfriend, and also his 3rd nephew had been born with a birth defect, and he realized he had really bad DNA. And his sister had 3 children. They all had some kind of limitation, and the last one had some kind of eye problem. Like, I don't think it was the glaucoma, because Ron was born with glaucoma, and that's inherited. But it was some kind of eye problem. His parents, his family was very, very ignorant in medical things. So all they knew was some kind of eye problem. And Ron's like, okay, that's enough. I'm just going to get fixed, because he was very adamant. He did not want to bring a blind child into the world. That it was very hard to be blind, and that he wouldn't put that on a child. So that is the story basically we told for 29 years. But looking back now, he would have been a terrible father, especially to a daughter. There were comments he made in passing over the years that were very, very disturbing to me. I'm not going to repeat those comments. And I don't know about other people. I only lived with one person who had Alzheimer's. But for Ron, the Alzheimer's acted like a truth serum. And things came out I did not want to know. So I'm very, very glad I did not have children with him. Of course, I can't say this to, a casual question on the bus or at work, from a coworker. Oh, don't you have kids? And, I need to come up with a response. What I have said lately is just he wouldn't have been a good father. And I think I'm just going to leave it at that. Because he wouldn't. He was just... No, it would have been bad. So, that's basically it. And, also, I think if I had kids, I wouldn't be so eager to go do evangelism, because I would feel like I had to protect my children's mother. But it's just me. And my aunt can find a home for the cats, So, especially if we put some of these videos up. So, I'm not worried about that. But that is it. This is not open for discussion in person.